your information to the customers that are looking for you more readily. So, as mentioned, starting our SEO journey, we touched on Google My Business last week. And for those of you that joined last week, I hope you were successful in setting yours up if you hadn't. This week, we'll talk about Google Search Console, and then next week, Analytics, and then Ads and Keyword Planner for the week after. Look forward to seeing you all there. So let's start off with Google Search Console. So this is one of the tools that you can put in your toolbox that Google offers for free. And it helps you or anybody that's looking after your website to monitor its performance and obviously present your best, putting your best foot forward for Google to help Google obviously present your information to the potential customers that are looking for your services or products that you're offering online. So let's talk about what Google Search Console can do for you. Obviously, as I've said, if your website is scratched and Google likes what they see, they'll improve your visibility in front of customers and potential visitors to your website. It gives you an accurate view of what your, what problems you have in your website, what's good, what's bad, how much is a view of traffic on your website, and a various other tracking, reporting type mediums that you can kind of go through, and I will take you through a demo of it later on that. And then it helps you optimize your website for using the best keywords, putting them in the right places. It's obviously thankfully to Google, they also help protect your website from malware, spam, and those kind of other threats that you get online. And then it helps you with Google rich results. So that's where people do a search on google.co.za for products and services that you offer. And Google helps you kind of through the process say, your website doesn't have great content or it's got good content, and it'll point out to you, where your website may or may not need some work. If you don't know what AMP is, so that is accelerated mobile pages. So if you haven't noticed these days, or if you haven't seen, a big chunk of people that visit the internet are doing so on mobile devices. So that's your phone or tablets or the like. So you've got to make sure right from the get-go that your website is ready to support that. And most websites these days come with a template that already supports mobile, that is mobile friendly. Other thing that Google Search Console does for you is it analyzes your backlinks. Backlinks are very important in your path, your SEO path. And a backlink is a link to another website. If you've got products that you sell, that you on-sell from a vendor, if you've got backlinks to, for example, blogs or images or data sheets, etc., on their site, it's great. And if you can get them to put a link from their site onto yours, you potentially gain access to some of the traffic that they get on their website. I mean, generally they've got a larger following. And if you can dip into that for free, that's great. So backlinks, very important, and Google will help you with those. Google will also, you'll see through some of the reports that we go through later that Google helps you make your website faster and a lot more responsive. It'll point out to you where things need to be worked and fixed, to become a bit more fast and responsive. And then if Google likes what it sees and you resolve your errors and problems timeously, they will help your indexing on Google search. So I'm going to take you through a quick walkthrough on how to set up Google Search Console. The link is there. We will share this information after the fact. This presentation you'll get as well, and the links are all clickable in the PDF. So you click on that link, search.google.com, Search Console About. It'll ask you to search for your property if you do not have a console set up already. If you do, obviously it will open directly onto your profile. Through this process, obviously it will walk you through the process on what you need to do to tell your website that Google Search Console is trying to interrogate it. And the next step is how that gets done. So there's a couple of ways you can verify this. So the information in front of you is quite technical. So the one is you can download a file and stick it into the root of your website. Google will pick that up. You can tag your website. If you've got tags set up, you can use your Google Analytics account to link it up if you have one. Or you can add a DNS record, which you're going to have to ask your hosting companies to do that for you. There is a third option, which I'll show you a little bit later, which is mainly for websites that are built on WordPress. They've built a plugin that makes things a lot easier. And then I think the last thing you have to do once it's all connected is add a sitemap. If you do have a WordPress site, or any website actually, there is a sitemap. Some have it by default, others don't. There are tools that can help you set up your sitemap, and then you just link it to Google Search Console, and it will start interrogating the sitemap. So your sitemap basically just tells Google, you know, I have this menu, these are the things in the menu, and these are the kind of pages I have, and these are the links to the page. Google will then obviously tell you if it's been successful and can see your website, and then it starts interrogating your website. So this is the background or the actual Search Console. This is a view of it. Once you've gone through the process of setting it all up, this is kind of what you will see in the background. Well, should I say on your dashboard, the admin dashboard. As you can see, there's a front view, which is a dashboard. It's a simple, intuitive, clickable dashboard that can take you through the various menu items you see on the left-hand side here. And I think the important things that you need to take care of are everything in red. They tell you, you know, there's problems, if you can resolve them. And what's nice about Google is they give you a little bit of advice on how to fix those problems. And we'll go through some of those shortly. Before I jump into the demo, any questions?
Renato, there is a question that came through from Anton. He says, does Shopify do much, or is this automatic?
So you still have to tell Shopify and Google Search Console that the two exist. And if you've got Google Analytics set up already on your Shopify store, this connecting Search Console to Shopify is quite simple. So it's not automatic, unfortunately. You have to do this manually. If you've got a Shopify store, the other platform I suggest you potentially connect to, if you haven't already, that is Google Merchant Center. So that basically pulls all your products across and makes them clickable and searchable and purchasable from Google itself. So there's another sales avenue you can use in Shopify. Cool. Let's. I'm going to quickly stop the presentation. And I'm going to open. Can you see my web browser?
Yes.
Okay, great. So to continue where we ended off last week with Abacus Locksmith, this is their Google Search Console. We basically just logged into it, and this is the homepage. As you can see, it gives you an idea of how many visitors and clicks they've had over the past couple of months. You can kind of see how the traffic rises and subsides, and you can click on pretty much any one of these data points along the way. You can also see there's a report on a more in-depth report to what you see here under search results. We'll click on that shortly. So back to sitemaps. Once you've loaded your sitemaps, you will get a page like this. So it's called coverage. Basically what it says is this Google has crawled all 129 pages on the website and they have not found any errors. I say that there have been errors on this website, and we have fixed them according to the recommendations of Google. And then enhancements, there's 18 potential errors we can have a look at here and fix. From a mobile usability perspective, this is doing very well. And then obviously it sees all the current site links. Let's go back to the top again and have a look at search results if we open the report. So Sherry asked, is this in the app? This is on the actual web browser. So it says if you go to searchgoogle.com and then log into your account, it should come up with this. If you're doing this for the first time, I'll just show you what it looks like with that do. So this is the page that you'd land on initially. So you'd probably put in your web address here, and then obviously go and continue, and it will take you through the process I just showed you in the presentation. Helen, are you not seeing the browser on my page? Are you seeing anything on my screen?
I'm seeing set up Google Search Console, dashboard, messages, search appearances. It was 2 slides back, I think. This is what we're seeing.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. And I'm going to share again. Share that. And is that better? Can you see that now?
So we're seeing the Search Console graph, or better, or sorted. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Sorry, guys. Okay, shall I go through this again? Okay, so obviously when you open up and you log in for the, once everything's set up, this is the page that you land on. So I mentioned there's data points on this graph, and you can kind of click on any one of them to see a little bit more, or you can go into the search results report. This is the coverage. This is where I spoke about the sitemaps. So once you've installed your sitemap, Google shows you how many pages it just crawls and how many pages it's found, and if any with errors on it. And then its recommendations from an enhancement perspective. It will tell you, if there's any problems, it will highlight them over here under errors. And if you click on the link, it will give you some recommendations on how to fix those errors. In this case, it will tell you how many links it sees and how many errors it's found in the links. And it will also help you kind of repair those. So we'll go back up. Let's open the search results report. Okay, so this gives you a little bit more of an in-depth view. So there's many things you can use this page for. One is if you're planning to do Google Ads, which I'll be talking about in a couple of weeks' time. This is a great place to see what keywords people are using to find your website. So these guys are locksmiths, so you can kind of see how many times car key replacement has been clicked and viewed and taken through to their website. So there's been, in these last couple of months, 1,130 people have seen them, and 48 of those people have clicked through. Sherry, we will get something in a little bit. Sherry's asking, can't get it verified, says download file, then upload to your website. I'll show you how to do that shortly. Okay, so back to this page. These are the keywords you would potentially use, or to start investigating or planning to use in your ads. So it's it's a guideline. I'll dig more into this when we start using the keyword planner and Google Ads, which is in 2 weeks' time. This shows you which pages have been linked to. This is a blog post. This is their home page. It shows you how many times they've clicked through to the home page, how many times their home page has been viewed on Google. So a lot of interesting information to help you with the SEO on your website and potentially making things better. So as an example, in this blog, there's potentially a lot of keywords that people have found or searched for that have brought people to the website. So you could potentially use this as a template going forward on your website on how to write the right blog or how to tag the right keywords, etc. Obviously, if you're aiming outside of the country, this is not a 100% true view. What we found is, obviously, these guys are focused on South Africa and Johannesburg. A lot of these are potentially people that are working in the country and have international branches. And potentially their traffic goes through that branch in another country and comes back here. So it seems like they might come, this number might be close to correct, but there's probably a small percentage that actually sits locally. In my days of working with IBM, all our traffic came from the United States, even though we were sitting in South Africa. So just bear that in mind when you see this kind of information. Unless you're aiming for customers in those countries. And then another key thing is, you can see a vast majority of the people that visit this website are visiting it on mobile. So these guys have got a Google My Business page. On that page, it's got a link to get directions. It's got a link to make a phone call, which they can do directly from the phone, their mobile phone. And then there's a link to their website. So people for this business are generally probably in the area looking for a locksmith and have found them from a mobile device. But again, depending on what your website looks like, this is very important information to determine, are you aiming at the right people on the right devices? And then this just gives you an idea of, what people are seeing, what they're looking at. So these guys are going to the website. And then you can dig it down into dates and obviously see what the history looks like. Any questions? Nothing at the moment, so we'll move on. Okay, so back to overview. Let's go and have a look at Discover. There's nothing in this report, but let's show you what it looks like. As you can see, these boxes have got ticks in them. You can take the ticks out. You can change what you see. Let's go back to this one, and you can kind of see what that does. So this is click-through rate is 2.7%. And the average position on a Google, if somebody does a search, they're, position number 17 on a page on average from a Google search result. Obviously, the closer you get to the top, the better. And then obviously you can take out what, the information that's not pertinent, and you can focus on something specific. Let's have a look at coverage. So this will give you an idea of the challenges you have. You can see if there's any pages that have a warning before it becomes an error, so you get notified by Google Search Console that there's potentially a problem coming up. And that could be relating to a backlink. It could be relating to potential problems that you're having with your website or one of your pages. And then excluded is obviously, pages that you don't want indexed. You might have an admin page which you don't want indexed, or you might have something that you're busy building on the background that you don't want to be indexed. You can exclude those pages from Google crawl. Yep, I don't know what to do about the sound. Sorry, guys. Let me see if there's...
I think it must be the individual speakers, because we're hearing you clearly. So perhaps put your volume on to full for Les.
Yeah, I can't turn my volume up any louder.
No, I think it's the individuals.
Okay, so then on the excluded side, you can kind of see, what was excluded, how many tabs, how many pages. If you've got a no index tag on your page, that basically says you don't want Google to search that page or be searchable on Google, and you can tag that generally in the back end of your page. If you've had any duplicates, I mean, you might have written a blog twice and have the same link or tag in it. So useful again. This is where you'd kind of dig a bit further into where Google's finding challenges or problems with your site, and then you can go click and obviously verify or go through the process of fixing it. Let's see if we can click on one of these. This one. So as you can see, Google allows you to look at things. They've got a lot of insight on what the problem is and a way to work through it. Sometimes it can be quite technical. I think Google tries to meet everybody as close to halfway as they can, so technical, non-technical. And let's go do enhancements. So this has got 18 errors. Let's have a look and see what those 18 errors are. So 18 poor URLs. You can see it bring us any more details, and you can click on any one of these ideas, and it takes you into, this is the actual problem. On one of them, there's 18 similar URLs. You can click on that, and you can actually go and see what the page looks like. And then you can go through and fix it, and then tell Google, go back, please have a look at my website. I've made a correction to it. It should be fine now. This usually takes a couple of days for them to validate. And then if they're happy with it, that number will reduce to 17 in this case, or whatever your number is. It takes and sticks in as green sees it, and you fix, what the problem is. So as you can see, everywhere you go, if there's a question mark, it gives you a little bit of help on, what the problem is or how to fix it. If you don't understand what things like LCP means, there's a little pop-up that explains to you. So this is a problem on mobile. Let's have a look. This will be the view of, okay, in this case, I can see straight off the bat what the problem is. Yeah, there's a lot of text. Can you imagine reading that on mobile? They're probably saying, put an image in there, break it up, reduce the size of the text, so on. Okay, so let's go back to mobile. So there's some remediation that needs to happen here. We'll obviously go through each of the 18 URLs and see if we can make any improvements on this to try and bring this number down. So it's picking up 18 problems, and there's one issue. So there's probably 18 bits of information on that one page that we can use to kind of fix the problem. Okay. Let's see. So let's have a look at this. So no errors. There's 51 valid links for mobile. As you can see here, these are some of the errors that were fixed. So the text was too small to read. That is probably one of the pages that we fixed in the past. There's so much text. So clickable elements are too close. If you've got images right next to each other, and then you look at them on mobile, they overlap, or they're too close or too big, so that if you click, you can't click on either, or you can only click on one. Obviously, there's stuff missing off the side of the screen. So on a mobile device, you have to scroll left and right, which is not always ideal. And obviously, in this case, we've got 51 pages that are mobile friendly, which is great. We don't have to do a lot of work on the mobile side. Then Let's have a look at site links. We had no problems. And as you can see, the more we click, the more info we can see. And this will give you an overview of what the links are that it has scanned. So 51 links, there's no problems. You can click on the links to see the page. You can see when last it was scanned. And obviously, if there were any errors picked up, you can see them on this page. On these little boxes, these little green pillars you can click on and obviously go to that day and see what the problem was. And you can kind of see where the problem started from the screen. Okay, so let's move on. We've covered the first page, so the performance coverage and enhancements. If you're busy with a new blog page and you want to test the URL, you can type in your new URL here, and Google Search Console will interrogate it and come back to you and say, you know, good or bad. There's problems or no problems, and there's potential solutions for it. And let's have a look at the performance. Again, this is, we dug into this a bit earlier. So you can use these for keyword planning when you want to run ads and things, or if you're planning on writing a new blog, you know, you can see how many times people have searched and clicked on any one of these keywords, and you can integrate these keywords into your blog. Or products, actually. And there's nothing here. Let's see if we can change. So again, you've got lots of options available. You can change, you know, your view period, and you can customize it and see what, you know, how your website's performing. So this is a bit blank at the moment. Normally it shows you this kind of information, which I think we found on the search results performance. So in these guys' case, it's a bit, obviously there's more information here than on the Discover side. Look at coverage. So again, it tells you, it gives you an idea of what, you know, if there's problems here. You can drill down to, let's just have a look at the errors. There's 440 items excluded on the page. That could be images that aren't published because it scans your website completely. So there might be images that are excluded, or there could be a blog that's not yet published to kind of make up those numbers. Or there's a lot of pages that have got no index tags. Is this making sense to everybody? Any questions?
Nothing in the chat box, Renato. Are there any questions?
Okay.
No.
Cool. So we spoke about sitemaps earlier. If you know what your sitemap URL is, if you've got a WordPress backend, there's a few tools that will help you to create a sitemap automatically. Well, not automatically, you've got to tell it to do it. And once your website's built, it'll give you a link to sitemap. So it's generally your website. So https://www, your website dot whatever it is. And then it'll be /site-maps.xml or something to that effect. And you can put that in here and get it to start crawling your website. You can kind of dig into, once it's running, if there's any errors, you know, you can see these on this page. There's no errors here. As you can see, these guys have got a few different sitemaps. Obviously, this relates to pages. This is their posts. If any of their posts have been tagged with keywords, and if these guys are showing who the author was of the blog that they were writing. So it kind of gives you an index of that. If you click, I mean, the author blog is, if you follow an author, you can kind of click on their name and show all the blogs that they've written. Okay, so this is just the index. and how things are working, how many pages have been excluded, pages that have been discovered but are not yet indexed. So there might be new blogs or new pages or updated pages. These are the no index pages, or the pages you don't want to be indexed. And then these are the ones that are actually submitted and are working and valid. If you have a page on your website which doesn't exist, or you've renamed it, or you want to hide it and remove it from Google Search Console, you can do that here. So you type in your URL, and you can tell Google to kind of remove just that URL that you typed in, or anything with this prefix. So you might have a topic that you've covered on a blog post. Let's say customer relations as an example. Anything that's with customer relations in the link, you can remove all of those from being crawls by Google. And then once you've done that, give it a couple of days, and you can clear the cache, and Google will take that out of its crawl index. So if somebody does search for that, whatever it is, Google won't present it to them anymore. So we've kind of covered the core web vitals. We've covered mobile usability. Let's go have a look at site links. So
Renato, Helen posted a question. She said, can you interrogate someone else's page?
No, you can't, unless you've been invited and you've been given rights to the Search Console. But if I had to go and try and do, I don't know, AutoJet's website, because we didn't do that first bit, which is that HTML, download the file and stick it on the website, it won't recognize the search. It won't allow you to do it. I mean, there's obviously security problems with that. So no, unless you give somebody access to your data. Okay, so let's talk about security issues. These guys don't have any issues detected. Obviously, if there was something, you should have a red or yellow or green circle here, and click on the link, and it will give you a bit of guidance on how to fix it. But generally, you'll have to obviously go to the back end and repair any of those issues. If there's anything that you need to do from a manual perspective, so if you've gone into the removals and told them this is the link, I don't want to be indexed anymore, there might be a manual action on this side. They might ask you to update your sitemap or do something else, and you'd find those actions over here. And that'll usually pop up a couple of days after you've asked for the removal. And obviously there's some old stuff which you don't really need to worry about. Web Tools is now Search Console and My Business and things like that. So that's Google Search Console. So I mentioned earlier that there's, for WordPress people, there's a plugin called SiteKit. So if you don't want to download the HTML file or change DNS settings or any of those suggestions that Google has initially, you could install this plugin called Google SiteKit. It's very easy to use, and all you got to do is basically fill in the information. You got to basically log into this account. That's all it takes to get it set up. So sorry, let's not do that. I had it open. Oh, here we go. So you can kind of install the kit. It's quite simple. You can go to plugins and download it. And it gives you a snapshot of what's happening on your website. SiteKit is nice. It allows you to connect Search Console. It allows you to connect your analytics, your ad account with any merchant. If you're selling products and you've connected it to Google Merchant Center, you can see in this one page what's happening on your website from a Google perspective. And again, if you want to connect any of these things, you just got to log in to your account. It takes you to, gives you the login details. You put in your Gmail address and the password, and it automatically kind of connects it up. As you can see, these items connect Search Console, Google Analytics, Page Speed Insights, and then AdSense. So if you're trying to earn money from your website. So, short and sweet, Google Search Console. It's a great way to keep an eye on the back end of your website, see if there's any problems, and kind of remediate them. Let me pick up another one. We're busy with our website and making changes. I'll show you all the errors we have at the moment. As you can see, we've got page errors. There's 9 of them. So I'll show you something else. We don't have any problems with breadcrumbs, usability, or the search index, which is great. But this is a challenge. If we go into this report, it will tell us how to potentially fix some of the errors. So I have an outstanding validation on a 404 error. And there are some of the examples of where the errors are occurring. There's 9 pages that are affected by this. If we click on Learn More, it will tell us, what's going on, why it's been excluded, what are the things we've got to kind of look for to resolve the issue. And each one of these links you can click on, and it will give you a little bit more information on how to fix. So we've got the 404 error, which is down here. So you can click on fixing 404. Then you can kind of go through how to fix the problem. I wouldn't go this far, but I mean, if you have a problem and you've got a web developer helping you with your page, you can say, this is the problem we have, and give them access to this page, and then they can work through all these challenges from a development perspective. And then once they're done, you click Validate Fix. It takes a couple of days. Google will then go and review your fix, see if everything's fine, and then the non-affected pages will be removed if everything's good. And your coverage will then have everything green, which is kind of where we want to be. So like the valid, you want everything as green as possible. Let's have a look. We have an error on our sitemap, which is the new sitemap. Again, we can click on it, and we can see what the problem is, and we can go and remediate that on the back end. Again, if you're not too sure, there's generally help, or your developer can walk you through this process. So this is just a page that doesn't have any relation to the sitemap. This page has had the code copied and pasted onto a page, and it's missing the tag relating to that code. That's how this problem would be fixed. And these are some of the keywords that are working for us. And in the last little while, obviously, the last 3 months, we haven't had much happening on these keywords. So if we're planning on doing any ads, we wouldn't use any of these. Obviously, this is very generic. So we would be fighting for this position and this keyword and paying a lot of money for it if we were trying to run an ad using that. Okay, so I've got a question here from Monday saying, I have G-Site Kit under Search Console. I get a message, Search Console data is not yet available. It's been like this for weeks. Monday, I would suggest going into your Search Console, logging into this page, and having a look to see if there's any errors here. And if there's any connection errors or if there's problems with your sitemaps, that's the first place I'd start looking at to try and resolve that. Or there's just no traffic going to your website. Those are 2 potential problems. Okay.
Renato, would you mind putting
yes.
the Google Search Console link into the chat box for everyone?
Sure. Maybe copy it from here. Where is it? There we go. And there we go, to the chat box.
Thank you so much.
Cool. So any questions? Any other questions? It's quiet today.
Very quiet. It must be because it's Monday, or maybe the sun is shining and everyone's
Lazy.
lazy.
Oh, those guys that couldn't hear us are probably sitting outside listening to the birds. Birds are too noisy. Enjoying the sun.
Anton has a question that's just come through. We need to run through all that you have said and then see what issues arise. So perfect. Anton, what we will be doing is Renato always puts together a hand guide, his deck, go through it step by step. And then if there are any questions, I have actually put Renato's email into the communication. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you just popped him an email with the questions that you have. I'd like to ask Laurie just to jump in here for a moment and put up our feedback survey. We always ask participants to answer a couple of questions on the webinar and what you would like us to include on the program going forward. We spoke this morning about the organic process of AutoJet and how we just change and adapt to whatever the climate is. So your feedback is always appreciated, and we would like to understand what your pending desires are in terms of training. So having said that, I thank you all for joining us this morning. Renato almost didn't, and then I thought, well, it's certainly not going to be me presenting this topic. So Renato,
you would have done well, Tracy.
No. I would have read your handbook actually from last time. So can we open the floor? Is there anyone that would like to make any comments, say anything before we end off and close today?
So there's another question from Monday. It says, when I go to Google Search Console link directly, I need to verify. So verify to the website. When you originally set up the asset, did you put in the correct link? So I'll go back to that page. I'll share my screen again. So when you went into this, was your domain done correctly? Just check that. So if you go to URL inspection, see if you can see any of your URLs on your website, maybe here. Otherwise, you can just go and recreate it. Or is this a verification that you need to go through? Where did this go? Okay, so basically that file that you download, so the question's been expanded, it's asking me to upload onto my website, I cannot verify. So when you're going through this process, let's go, that probably won't find me, but it will tell me I've already got a website up. So we previously used a DNS provider to do this. If you're getting this area, you can copy this link through the copy button and paste it, not paste it, you can ask your service provider, the people that are hosting your website, to create a new TXT record in the DNS configuration using this link. So if you copy this information into an email and then copy this link into the email and send it through to your service provider, they will help you create that record. DNS is kind of how the internet determines who you are. So there's many facets to DNS. I'm not going to get into that. That's a subject on its own, Philip. It's the way your domain name is presented to the internet, in a nutshell. And DNS covers more than just your website. It covers email, security, and a whole bunch of other things, internal, external networks. So if you don't know what DNS is and you need to do this, I'd suggest getting a hold of your internet service provider, the people that you're hosting your website with, and just asking them to help you with creating a record in your DNS. And then once that's done, the general replication time for a DNS record is anything from a couple of seconds to a couple of days, depending on how you've got your website set up. If you're using any cache or Cloudflare type services, it might take a little bit longer.
Renato, what is DNS?
Yep, so that's what I was just talking about.
Okay, so that's done for Philip. And Sherry still seems to have a question with Google My Biz verification.
So depending on how you set it up, you'll be presented with two options. One is they will either send you an email or give you a phone call directly. Generally, what we find in South Africa is they send you a postcard, and that usually takes 21 working days. Considering where we are with COVID and things not working, one of my customers is waiting for over a year for that postcard, which never arrived. I think last week in the mail there should be a link on how to log a call with Google My Business Support. They ask you a whole bunch of questions, and they ask you to take some photos of your office. If you upload it into the support ticket, they will then contact you initially via email, and then once they feel they've got the right information from you, they'll probably give you a call and help you out with the code.
Thank you. So Laurie has advised me that she's having a few technical issues and cannot put up our feedback poll, but we will send you the link in the post-webinar communication. And in the chat box now, I have just put the link to join us for next week's session. Remember, each week is a separate link. So next week we will speak about Google Analytics. And if there's no further questions from this afternoon, then we're going to close off. We thank you to all the people that have pledged and made a donation towards Object this morning. Should you want to still do so, the donation link will be in the post-webinar communication. So we wish you all a wonderful rest of this week, and we look forward to seeing you next week, Monday. Should you not be joining us sooner for other webinars for Google Analytics with Renato. So thank you so much, Renato, and we will see you next Monday.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. I hope that was informative. See you next Monday.
Great. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Renato. Bye.
Thanks, Renato.
Pleasure. Sorry I was late.
Thank you. Thank
No
you, everybody.
problem.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.